Thank you, Luis, and good afternoon to you all. First and foremost, I would like to express my appreciation to the organizers of this symposium, or this roundtable, even though the table is not round. The Anthropology Department of the University of Salamanca, the agency, the Agencia Española de Cooperación Internacional para el Desarrollo, AECID, I hope I made sense. Casa Africa and Concilio de Pineda Foundation for their laudable initiative in bringing together scholars, diplomats, and experts on sub-Saharan Africa to share ideas and exchange information on issues of relevance to understanding the dynamics of culture, politics, and development cooperation as it relates to the African continent. As a representative of Ghana, I always cherish any opportunity to talk about my country, and I welcome the invitation very much. Thanks very much. Now, the world and Africa is certainly going through extraordinary times with challenges as well as opportunities. Ghana, as part of Africa and of course the world, is not and cannot be insulated from these developments. Ghana has a lot of potential and opportunities which contribute not only to the benefit, which has the potential of contributing not only for the benefit of its citizens, but to all others interested in engaging with the country in different spheres. The country faces lots of challenges, some of which are inherent in the very nature of the opportunities it carries. For instance, the recent discovery and production of oil in commercial quantities in the country entails challenges as well as opportunities. And if we take a look at Ghana's history, about 54 years ago, precisely on the 6th of March 1957, Ghana emerged on the world stage as the first African country in sub-Saharan Africa to achieve its independence from colonial rule under the leadership of Osajifo Dr. Nkrumah. On the eve of independence, the name of Ghana was changed from Gold Coast. Sorry, the name of the country was changed from Gold Coast to Ghana, sorry. The word Ghana means warrior king, and it takes its origin from the prosperous ancient kingdom bearing the same name that flourished in West Africa between the 9th and the 10th centuries. The name Gold Coast, however, derived from the abundance of gold and the early European explorers found along the coastal areas of the present-day Ghana. The Portuguese, who were the earliest Europeans to get to these coastal areas, built a fort at a place they call Mina de Ouro, or gold mine. The Portuguese, Don Diego de Zambuga, arrived in the area around 1471 and was followed later by Christopher Columbus, who, after exploring the coast of what is now modern-day Ghana, came back to Europe before going to discover America in 1482. Now, between the 15th and 19th centuries, European merchants fought for the control of the gold and ivory along the coast of Ghana until the British eventually prevailed and signed a bond with the people of the then Gold Coast in 1844 that made the territory a British colony. And to talk about Ghana's independence without dwelling on the name, the person of Kwame Nkrumah will be like cooking without salt. And as a product of Nkrumahism, I have to resist the temptation of talking too much about him, because Kwame Nkrumah, for some, is equal to Ghana, and Ghana is equal to Kwame Nkrumah. Those of you who have been interested in contemporary African history. Now, when Ghana achieved independence from the British, Nkrumah declared that the country's independence was meaningless unless it was linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. With this vision and conviction, he not only placed Ghana's resources at the disposal of African countries seeking to cast off the yoke of colonialism, but he also went further to seek the unity of the continent. The challenge of African liberation and unity therefore engaged a great deal of Nkrumah's attention and made him appear more of an African nationalist and hero than a Ghanaian nationalist. Indeed, Ali Mazrui, a political economist from Kenya, wrote a controversial article about Kwame Nkrumah's overthrow in 1966, in which he described the latter as a great African, but not a great Ghanaian. The underlying reason for this assertion was the fact that Nkrumah dedicated himself to Pan-Africanism and acquitted himself well as a great Pan-Africanist, while pursuing a single-party rule in Ghana. He is said on this score to have become increasingly involved in problems on the African continent, while simultaneously implementing unpopular and dictatorial policies and laws such as the Preventing Detention Act, which led to the incarceration of some of his opponents in Ghana. This analysis, some describe as an oversimplification of the complex issues that confronted Dr. Kwame Nkrumah at the seminal period of nationhood in Ghana and Africa. While his commitment to African liberation was unsurpassed among his peers, he was sometimes misunderstood. In fact, he was mostly understood, I would say. But history has proved him right on many fronts. His ideas on the need for the political and economic emancipation of the African continent and on neocolonialism, the projection of the African personality on the world stage, the necessity of industrial development of Africa, the need for Africa High Command and continental government, etc., remain as relevant today as they were when he advocated them about half a century ago. He was indeed a man ahead of his times. In Ghana itself, the challenge of nationhood in an ethnically pluralistic country emerging from colonial rule with contentious aspirations for federalism and unitary systems of government presented Nkrumah with little alternative than what he believed could keep the nation together, which was a one-party system. He thought the country was too dangerously divided along regional and ethnic lines, and he didn't want to worsen it by allowing the divisive multi-party democratic system at the time. That was the thinking. Divisions in the society where tribalism had deep roots, in his view, could engender the pursuit of diverse interests, which did not necessarily coincide with the national interest. Ghana had also inherited the colonial problem of local, rural, and urban councils along the British model, on the one hand, and the intricacies of traditional royalty, that is, traditional chieftaincy, which is traditional royalty, on the other. All these systems had to be harmonized to facilitate the building of one nation with a common goal and destiny. Dr. Nkrumah also had a cultural argument in favor of the one-party state. He was convinced that the African cultural and political system, with its chieftaincy institutions, operated along the lines of consensus. It was therefore natural to build an African nation on the basis of one-party state rather than on a multi-party competitive democratic system. Indeed, a number of political parties emerged in the period leading to Ghana's independence, which were organized essentially along regional, ethnic, and even religious lines.